Matt, this one's kind of like really all about you. You got these things I can't wait to hear about. More cheese, less whiskers.
Yeah, so it's not my idea. I went to a 3-day workshop actually 8 years ago, October 5th, and kind of like was
You remember the day? It must have changed
Jeez, man,
your
this
life,
is
huh?
like-
Yeah, and
It was slightly sunny and overcast. It had rained that morning. The dew on the ground
What were you
smelled
wearing?
beautiful.
Yeah.
Man, he's
I was wearing a BGS shirt.
Oh,
so,
jeez.
yeah,
descriptive.
The reason why I know the date is because I went again last week.
Okay.
And just the difference in who I was in marketing back then, I certainly have adopted several of the principles, but then to go back to the same thing 8 years later and then look at it from a whole different perspective and a new scope, and for it to hit differently, which it did for me. And it was it's called Breakthrough Blueprint is what Dean Jackson does. And it's a 3-day, basically like 7-8 people sit in the room and you start thinking through how you can market your business. And he has this concept called more cheese, less whiskers. And how he came up with it is like the reason why they use mice to test everything is because their brain is a lot like ours. So they're driven by pain or pleasure, which is essentially what humans are driven by. And so the way that he describes it is if you put a piece of cheese on the other side of a door, a mouse will gnaw through a 3-inch wood door in order to get to the cheese. But if for any reason it senses that there's a whisker or a cat, it's gone and it won't come back. It's just done. And so he likens that to how most businesses market. And if you lead off with a sale, you're leading with whiskers. And so what he says is more cheese, less whiskers. So in other words, begin with the end in mind and think about what that customer actually wants and how can you help them get that result without scaring them away. And so it takes thinking. I think it was Henry Ford that said, thinking's hard work. That's why most people never do it. And so
true.
The truth of the matter is, like, us sitting there, we would be mentally tired because we're thinking through how do you approach your business from a standpoint of where you can get the customer their end result, where they're coming to you to ask to do business with you, not you going to them and saying, hey, we want to do business with you. And so an example that he gave, which is a great example, there was a postcard company. They do personalized postcards. So in a 1 to 3 mile radius of a restaurant, they would extract all the data in the birthdays. And then each month they would send those people a birthday postcard, had their name, their birthday, all this other stuff from the restaurant, giving them a free meal. And that campaign, what they would do in order to sell it to a restaurant, their strategy was they would email to them, get people to raise their hand, and then someone would go try to sell them a $3,000 package, which was 6 months, $500 a month of these postcards. So he was doing some other work with them, and they had just sent out this email to 3,600 restaurants, and they were super disappointed. Said, "Oh, this email list is dead." They literally didn't get one click to their website. And he goes through the whole campaign. It was actually a really what we would think is a good marketing campaign to get people to sign up. But like I said, 3,600 people, not a single response. And so he said, let's think through this further down the road. You're trying to help them get more birthday parties, right? And they said, yes. And he goes, what does the restaurant want? The restaurant wants more birthday parties. Okay, so instead of go through this way to try to get them to realize that, why don't we just begin with the end in mind? And he said, send this email to those 3,600. He actually said send it to a smaller list, but they messed up. Sent it to all 3,600. They got over 800 responses.
And what was the difference in what the messaging?
The message said, "Do you do birthday parties?" That was it.
Uh-huh.
So if the restaurant was Rocco's, it was Rocco's. Do you do birthday parties?
Do birthday parties. Click, and they opened.
That's exactly
and
what
then they're
happened.
like, oh, wait,
over 800 people.
They're not looking
responded.
to do a birthday party. They want to promote our birthday parties.
But so then he said, yeah, we weren't going to introduce a whisker right then. What would be the next reasonable question? And so they thought through it, and he said, So his response to them was, could you handle 4 to 6 birthday parties next month?
Because that's what I can bring you by you signing up.
But you don't
for
say
this.
that yet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you handle
okay.
4 to 6 next month? Yes. We have 6 locations. Yes. We have a special room for birthdays, all this other stuff. Like these people now, two emails
They're
in on it.
engaging now.
they're like trying to get these birthday parties from him.
Yeah.
And so the third email was, great. I've been doing this thing for Roy's here in Sarasota, which is right around where these people were sent, where we send out these personalized emails. And he gave some of the stats of how it was working. And he said, what we'd love to do is run a test with you for $199. We'll just do a small sample size. And if you don't double your money, we'll give you your money back. Hundreds of clients, never sent out a salesperson, none of that. And it was a four email sequence.
Wow.
And where 3,600 did not get a single click to the website,
Yeah.
turned it into over 800
All of it
responses.
because of the messaging.
Yeah, 100%. More
And
cheese,
they weren't
less
scaring
whiskers.
them away with trying to be too salesy off the bat.
They came to him. Yes, we want that birthday. Yes, we want that birthday. Oh, this is how you get it. Okay, let's do it. Instead of, hey, let us
Did he
get
get
your
a lot of-
birthdays. Hey, let us get
Did
your
he catch any
birthdays.
flack for like, well, wait, I thought you wanted a birthday, but now.
Well, they
you're
do.
selling.
Like they're gonna bring those. They wanted
Yeah,
to make sure
yeah.
that they could. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it worked phenomenally well. And so we thought through, even for our marketing, like what is something that, and I love your guys' feedback on this, what is something that all e-commerce store owners would like? Because obviously we help e-commerce
More
store
money.
owners.
Or-
Yeah, right.
It's like,
Yeah.
do you want more money?
And so for me, under the concept of more cheese, less whiskers, I thought, well, every single owner that I've ever talked to would love to know what their business is worth.
It's very true.
And so I thought, like, if BGS came up with a 2023 report of what the top 50 niches in e-commerce are bringing for sales, like, different examples of
Very interesting.
what the business has sold for a year, and we'll give that to you for free. You just opt in, we'll give you that for free. And then the next piece of cheese could be, hey, we're going to send you a few emails on how you can maximize your evaluation, because they've already raised their hand and said, oh, I'd love to know. One is email marketing, another one's website optimization, another one would be SMS, another one would be SEO.
This is how you become more valuable.
And so we're literally teach them the,
Like, well, who knows how to do that?
yeah.
Hey, by the way, we do.
You're not
So
doing
if
those.
2 or 3 emails in, like we've just given them lots of things to think about. And then they're like, oh yeah, we definitely need to be doing that. And, oh, well, who do we get a hold of? Oh, we'd love to help you.
Yeah.
But by that way, at that point, now they're coming to us, asking us to spend money instead of us going to
They've
them
sold
saying,
themselves.
hey, spend money with us and let us prove what we can do. Instead, we've provided more cheese, more cheese, more cheese. And now they are not afraid of us at all.
I love it.
Yeah, I feel like most people, everybody goes for like the jugular right off the bat, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like the
100,
boom,
well,
here's this action required.
yeah. So I'll give
versus,
you
hey,
the,
let's
I'll give
date
you
for a
the
little
other
bit.
stats.
That's
that-
true.
Let's go on a date for a little bit.
Yeah, that's very true.
It's not. Yeah,
You're courting them.
You're courting them a little bit. It's not. You're not getting married after the first date. with
Yeah, and so
someone.
think about how you show up different to them than everybody else in their inbox.
Yeah, you're building trust that whole time. You're giving them value there. And then, like, even when that leads into that further up conversation of the added services and everything else, you can then be brutally honest about what's actually needed and what's required to then.
Yeah.
And so,
complete.
how could other businesses integrate that into their strategy, and would that be in ads, or do they you're not trying to?
No, he still does ads. So he gives another example of how he does it. He does a buyer's guide for what houses are selling for in certain neighborhoods. So like in an area, like a large residential area, he'll have a buyer's guide. And so he'll run ads to that where people will just opt in for it. And then he knows, like, they're either wondering what their house is worth, what it's going to be to buy one, or, like a lender. And so he follows it up with the things that would answer those 3 questions, and knowing that eventually the people are going to raise their hand. He said, you don't want everybody. I think for that buyer's guide, he gets, it's about $2.50 a lead. And he knows over
And what
time.
does he ultimately sell them with that?
He's selling them home.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to sell them a home or list their home or
Yeah.
whatever. He's doing it for real estate agents.
Okay.
But if you look at the numbers, they've surveyed people, like like 3 months after they've inquired about something, 8 months, 9 months, 12 months, 15 months, 18 months. And what they found is 15% of people that inquired about something bought in the first 90 days.
Wow.
Wow.
The other 85% of buyers happened over the next 12 to 18 months.
Wow.
And the problem is everybody's going after the 15 that buy now,
Immediately.
Yeah.
and they're losing or they're leaving 5 times the amount
But if
of
they
money.
did that and then just waited a little bit, it'll
Yeah.
eventually catch up where then you're, that day you're still getting the people from months ago
Right.
that are
Right.
buying. And then
It's
that's
almost
like
like
5
it
times
continues.
more value
That's
if
incredible.
you still nurture and take care of those people, knowing that they weren't ready to buy now, but you're the only one that's going to be on their mind, months down the road.
Well, it's almost like it's almost like an old school way of doing sales and business. Because I mean, think about back in the day, like knocking doors or whatever. If you're a sales guy, you wouldn't go up and show your product day one. You show up and especially the pharma companies. So back in the day, my uncle was in pharma, but the pharma companies would come in and they were literally hired to wine and dine doctors. Take them out, do the dinners, do the things, build the relationship, and then at the end, after weeks and months at times, get the sale. I feel like technology sped up so fast that we cut all that out,
Yeah.
right?
Cut to
Because
the chase,
we cut all to the chase. We don't have time for it. I don't this, that. And so it sounds like it's a rebirth of that in a digital age of like, well, no, this is how you still appeal to those same human behaviors of
and
relationship
that's
that
never
turn
gonna-
into sales.
That's not going to change.
It's not going to change.
Yeah. They said of the people that inquired, 80% of them bought. So 20%
Big deal.
hadn't bought in that year and a half, but 80% of the people that inquired about something ended up purchasing within that time frame.
And it's very easy to say no to someone that asks you that right off the bat. The first question is, do you want this? No. It's easy to say that. But if you've spoken with them a couple times and then by the third time and now you kind of have some rapport with them and then they ask.
Well, now you know,
Or
like,
not
and
even
trust
ask.
them.
It's almost like you're trying to pull that out of them.
Human behavior.
You
So,
know, like, and
you-
trust them. And it's
yeah.
like, that's who I'm going to do business with.
Exactly. Like,
So more cheese, less whiskers. And it's just
I
like,
love
it's
it.
such a good concept. And by using that analogy, like, everybody can visualize exactly what he's talking about. So for me, it was great.
Question: any whiskers that come to your mind right off the bat that you see all the time in e-commerce that people are just like, you're like straight whiskers. Like if you see this, like, have you visited a site or have you been hit that email target? Like, oh my gosh, straight whisker.
In all honesty, almost every piece of marketing that you see is all whiskers and
All
no
whiskers,
cheese.
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to think is, what is some of the cheese that you can give that isn't whiskers? Especially in thinking about.
Well, you could have like a style guide.
Yeah. Okay.
You could literally give like a style
Absolutely.
guide of all these different things just for free that, you even pay money to get on that list where you, once a month, you send them, hey, these are cool styles. And like, of
And the
course
style
you
guides
mention
could be
your
broken-
belts, but don't even put any links in there. You
Yeah.
just talk
Yeah.
about them, do that other stuff. They don't feel like you're selling them, and they'll sell themselves because you're the one providing them value.
Absolutely.
The style guide for you too thing that'd be kind of interesting is, again, segmenting your audience a bit on that. On a style guide is like a style guide for a business is different than a style guide for a construction worker,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So and then automatically by choosing some of those things, you're automatically also putting them into
segmenting,
categories. You're
say, okay,
segmenting.
what are
They're
you interested
segmenting
in?
themselves while you're
And
still giving
what
them
is-
info.
What's one thing every guy wants to know? Like, not 1 in 1,000 guys is like really good at style.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They always go to their friends
Not
or they
quite.
ask their girlfriend, hey, does this look okay?
Yeah.
Because I have no clue. So like, if you have someone that's doing that, that is providing value.
Absolutely.
He
Without
should,
selling them
dude,
anything.
he should have like an AI bot that like people send a picture of their wardrobe, goes to him, and he's like, yes or no. He's like, does this go
I like
together?
that.
Yes or no?
just-
Like,
I mean, obviously, we could think it through, or we should
Yeah.
think it through,
Absolutely.
or we could think it through. I
Very
think it
interesting.
matters, and it's
We'll talk
like,
about this more later.
insane. Yeah, it's
I
such
think
a
the
good
greatest takeaway from this is that we're compared to rats and mice. That's how simple. That's how simple our behavior is.
idea. But we really are. We really
are.
are. And the cool thing, I think that's good because now it makes us predictable, which gives us the ability to say, okay, listen, are we providing our
Yep.
clients pain, or are we providing them pleasure? And the reason why marketing is so hard is because the majority of us are literally marketing whiskers all the time instead of
Only whiskers.
like, how do we? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Stop
You
selling.
need to give
whiskers.
some cheese.
I like
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Great, man.
Awesome.
Matt, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I want to give credit to Dean Jackson because he's the one who taught it. Yeah. But I'll tell everybody about it
Just,
from now on.
just bringing preaching the gospel. But,
I think if I tell it 3 times, then I can claim it.
That's what I've heard.
Something like that.
We can do this
After
again.
I say it 3 times, then
After 3 times, it's yours. Change it just enough to make it yours. All right, cool. More cheese, less whiskers.